This podcast was recorded on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation.
Guys, welcome back to another episode and week of Mad About You.
Hey!
That's becoming normal. We just always want to start by saying thanks for joining us and supporting the pod by coming back each week to listen. It means a lot to us, and we're excited to have you along for the ride. So in true Mad About You fashion, I'm going to start with a wild dating story. And I say wild dating story, but I wouldn't really class it as that. It's more of just like a bit of a funny one with a bit of food for thought. And it happened to a friend of mine last week, like since recording the last pod. So it's fresh in my mind. So he went on a date with a girl he met on Bumble. And a little background about my friend, he's 31, he's handsome, he's intelligent, he's got a good job, he owns his own home. Like he's got a lot going for him, and you'd think he'd be a catch, and he'd be finding a woman very easily, but he's still on the apps and still searching. Now he found this girl he got along with, they had some good chat, he found her attractive, she was about 26, and they agreed to go to meet at a bar/restaurant for drinks in Neutral Bay, which is on the North Shore in Sydney, if you weren't aware. And they rock up, and he said that, he likes the look of her, she's looking great, they sit down and they start chatting, and he said that she starts by telling him that she's just got back from Europe, a trip that she went on with her roommate, and her roommate was also meant to have a date tonight, but it was with a guy that she met in Europe, and they were meeting back here for the first time. She was super excited, and he cancelled. So it was Saturday night, and my friend was kind of like, yeah, interesting, but like, let's talk about you and me. Let's not talk about your friend. And he goes, they get to chatting, they're having a few drinks and having some food. And he said about 20 minutes into the date, he said the roommate rocks up with a friend, and like, they sit down and they sort of like join the date. And he was a little bit sort of dumbfounded by this. And he was like, what is going on? Like, as in, did she tell me this so like I'd feel sorry for the friend and be okay with her joining? Or is this like some ploy or plan? Or has she texted the friend and said, come and help me and save me and get me out of here? So he said that, the two that joined them went up to the bar to get a drink, and he asked her, he said, look, like, as in, did you tell them that we were here? And is this on purpose, or is this just like an absolute coincidence, and a funny mistake? And he said that she said that she did actually say where they were going, and this was not a mistake. So this friend and, another friend have rocked up and sort of like joined their date. And he said he wasn't really a fan of that because, he'd traveled like 40 minutes to be there. He was excited to go on a date with this girl. And now suddenly it's turned into this like friendship group hangout, which he wasn't really down for.
Were they doing it for a laugh?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think this girl was just a little bit bummed out that her date got ruined and just wanted to, I don't know, go and be a part of this date or keep her eyes on her. But so my mate suggested after a little while of hanging out with them, he was a good sport and hanged out, with them and had a chat and drink. And he said, look, maybe we duck out the two of us to another venue. And he said, there's a place up the road which has pool tables. Let's go and have a hit of pool and muck around. And so they did end up doing that. So they left the venue and, I think he might have planned it while the others were eating and having a drink still, so they couldn't, leave their food and drink. So he said they ducked up the road and they started having a few games of pool and mucking around. The two of them said they were having a great time. And he said about 20 minutes into that, he said the friends rocked up again. And he's like, obviously she's told them where they are, and they've rocked up, and he's like, I didn't make it clear that I didn't want them around or anything, because that might have been a bit strange. But he's like, I found it weird again. So he goes, when they left and went to get a drink, I asked her, I said, look, do you feel uncomfortable like on a date with me? Like, I'm more than happy to head home if you want. You can spend the night with your friends. Like, I don't want you to be uncomfortable if you feel like you need your friends around or anything. Like asked her in case,
like
she
you're
wasn't
a stranger, I guess.
Yeah, she wasn't feeling the date and he wanted him to leave, but maybe felt uncomfortable telling him. And she was like, no, not at all. And so he was stuck with this friendship date again when he was like trying to get this girl away to sort of like meet her and get to know her and,
he ran away and they followed.
Yeah, which is, I think it's quite strange in a sense and maybe just shows like the immaturity between, I don't know, a 31-year-old and 26-year-old. Maybe that 5 years is still quite a hefty jump. I don't know. But he said that after a little while of playing pool, he was kind of like, look, I don't really think I'm going to get this girl to myself tonight and get to know her and get to have, the conversations, honest dating conversations you want to have with two goofy friends around. So he said, look, I think I'm gonna head off.
Yeah.
To which he said to the girl, like, would you like a lift home? Like, I can drop you. I know you live pretty close by. And she said, like, oh yeah, that would actually be good. Like, I'm thinking of calling it as well. And he said, oh, okay, no worries, like, let's go. And he said that then she turned to her friends and said, do you guys want a lift home? And so she'd gone and offered her friends a lift home with the date that she was on with my friend without even asking
That's
if it was all
terrible.
right or anything. Yeah. And the friends took him up on it and said, yeah, no worries. And so they all got in the car together. And my friend, he's like, at this stage, I'm not going to kick up a stink. I'm just going to go with the flow. This thing's
Yeah.
almost over. I'm probably 10 minutes from being by myself. And he said the funny part was that he had to drop the girl that he was on a date with first. Like, she was the closest point to the venue. So he's like,
So
I
then he was
dropped
stuck
her
with the other
first. And he's
two.
like, I'm stuck with these two random people in my car that I'm giving a lift home on this date. And that's sort of where the story ends, is that he was stuck in the car with these two people driving them home. But I just think to myself, like, if you don't want to go on a
What?
solo date with someone, perhaps let them know, because I don't think that everyone would be okay on going on a group date, and you're not only like, you're wasting someone's time, money and resources, on a Saturday night whereby, like, I don't think my friend really wanted to go on a group date. He was kind of interested in getting to know this girl, and
Maybe
he was
they-
left with that.
Maybe they thought they'd wind up at Picton Tunnels doing some ghost hunting.
Yeah, but they didn't rock up with any tasers. But I think, like, I can't see how that is a good idea, for either party, like the girl whose date got
So
cancelled.
weird.
Like, why would you want to then ruin your mate's date? Like, if you're bummed out that your date got ruined, why would you want to ruin your friend's date?
I don't understand. If you're going on a date to meet someone and get to know them, why would you want that scenario as well? Like, unless you're not taking it very seriously and maybe you just think it's going to be a good laugh with your mates to go and, have a drink with this guy that you maybe don't necessarily care to get to know properly.
But why would that be a laugh with your mates?
I don't know. That's what I mean. Like, it seems like an odd thing that she would be involved in. Or maybe she just had no say in all of it, was just letting her friends know where she was going to be. And they were intruding on her evening, And then by the end of it, she was like, whatever, like...
Yeah, to be honest, it sounded more like that to me. Because when he asked her about, like, do you feel uncomfortable? Like, I'm more than happy to leave if you're not vibing this, or if you want to have a night with your friends. He said that she specifically said, like, no, like, I'm enjoying hanging out. So she was obviously enjoying being with him. So perhaps it was the friend who was kind of like, raining on their parade and was just, a bit pissy that she had her night ruined and kind of wanted to...
And what, you're not close enough to be like, oh, hey, would you mind just, not
some
following me around?
Some people aren't. Some people don't have the backbone to tell their mate to bugger off.
Have they spoken since? Do you know?
I don't think so. I think he
That was
called it.
it.
I think he called it there.
Bit too weird.
Yeah, just
Fair
not
enough.
really
It's
what he was
off-putting.
looking for. And
It was really off-putting.
yeah, perhaps he wanted someone with a bit more of a backbone and maybe a bit more mature to say what they want. And
Yeah. All right, guys,
run
look,
around in
if you're going
circles.
on a date, don't bring a posse.
yeah, what happened with Jad, and they didn't get married, and now my mate's not marrying this chick, so it's obviously not working for people. That's 2 from 2.
Absolutely. Leave the friends at home, I reckon.
All right, guys, off the back of this week's dating story, we wanted to talk through all things dating apps. Now, in the past few years, I'm sure we've all seen that there's been an influx of different apps. Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, all of them have taken over the market and sort of taken over how we date in this modern world. So Jad and I just wanted to have a little, chat and discussion about the nature of dating apps out there and sort of how they're changing the dating game moving forward for people, and whether it's, a positive environment and, for people, or if most people are struggling with this new digital form of dating. So
I used to frequent the dating apps.
yeah, I know you did.
Yeah.
And what was your experience like?
It was very different back then. Like, now you can do little voice recordings and your profile's a bit, streamlined. Back then it was just, you had a little bio and your photo, and that was kind of it. And it was also, I don't know how to explain it. It felt really chaotic. That's the energy I'm going to describe it as.
Is that because you were just getting so many people swiping right?
It was
tough to keep up with them? Or
It
what?
just felt like a game almost, like not real dating. I think it was still a novelty. I actually remember I was dating someone when we discovered the app's existence. Like him and his mates were all chatting about it. Like, oh, there's this app where you swipe on people. So we were all like, oh, what the hell? And because it was such a novelty then and not actually, no one really perceived it as this thing that was a real tool for dating, we all downloaded it all together, like including, you know, me and this guy who I was seeing at the time, which now obviously you would never do that. You'd never go, hey, let's get this app. So back then it was just funny and we were all checking it out. And yeah, obviously it's grown into this monster since then.
I know what you mean by like it seems like a game, and I think that those apps are like incredibly cleverly developed to feel like that, you know, like anything, it's to keep you on it for as long as possible, to market your attention and you know, so they can have ads, or you know, I've heard from my own friends that a lot of those apps now charge you if you want to have more, you know, like you're allowed 10 right swipes a day, and a right swipe is, you know, obviously you like them and you might want to match with them, but they limit the amount of positive swipes that you can have, and they want to monetize it by allowing, they'll give you access to more, but it will cost you like X amount of money, you know, a week or a month or whatever it is. So,
which is interesting.
I'm sure that wasn't the case when you first were on the apps.
None of it was paid. You didn't pay for anything. I feel like the pay thing is quite fresh still.
Sure.
Paying to use the, like in the beginning, I think it was you had like a super like that's what you paid for, is to be able to do, you know, little things that showed someone that you were extra interested in them. But now it's kind of to basically use the app in a you know, general sense.
Yeah, which I think is an interesting way to start finding people, is like paying for access to them. And it just seems like an odd concept to start with. But something that I wanted to discuss with apps, and something that I've maybe seen in even friends of mine using them over the years now, which it has been years of them being out in the market, is that I feel like a lot of perhaps men more so than women, I can't really speak for women, I can only speak for men, my friends and stories that I've heard, but I feel like there's a lot more like approach anxiety within real dating because of dating apps. So dating apps, like they give you the opportunity to, you know, craft messages in a certain way and, you know, write back at certain times, and you're not conversating with someone face to face that you've met at the gym or, you know, your barista or, you know, out at a bar. And I think those conversation skills like end up becoming quite lacking in people when they meet on these apps, and it's so, you know, it becomes so easy to shoot out the same line that you shot out to the last 20 people to see if they buy it, and then, you know, if they write something back, you got an hour, 2 hours, 20 minutes, 2 days if you want to concoct like another funny line, or, you know, you can get help from friends or ChatGPT to, you know, write crafty, funny messages. And I think that doing that actually like inhibits people from meeting people in the real world, because meeting someone in the real world or asking for their number or asking them out on a date is so much scarier with that sense of rejection that could come with asking someone. Whereas if you do it on an app, you shoot someone out a message, you want to get a drink on Saturday night, they don't reply, sweet, you're on to the next one. They say no, you go, sweet, I got 10 other people that I match with this week alone, I'm just going to ask them instead, you know? So there's no real like fear of rejection in dating apps, which I think is not like a good thing, because these apps and you know, these platforms isn't real life, you know, like real life is outside when you're chatting to people and you're meeting people. So I think that, yeah, that approach anxiety, I think is seen more and more in men when it comes to sort of approaching people in the real world. It kind of scares them off, and these dating apps sort of, inhibit their communication skills, I think, a little bit. It's
really interesting that you say it's not real life, because I think a lot of people spend most of their day on their phones now. So that's becoming their real life, and that's a shame. But it doesn't make it their real life. It just means that they're living less in their real life and more online. Because, but that's the life that they're most familiar with. So, you know, who's to say that that's not where they should spend most of their time? You know, if they feel like, not most of their time, but most of their energy. You know, if they feel like that's the world that they're living in. So, are you saying that you've had like better experience? I think is meeting people through dating apps than you have like being out at the beach or at a bar or something, you know? I mean, that's a good question. I think that the apps, I think the one thing that's positive about them is that it kind of gives you more of an insight into, no, I'm going to contradict myself here. You could use the same argument for both points. I was going to say that the app might give you more of an insight into who they are up front, you know?
I think the opposite.
Well, yeah, versus meeting someone in person, but it depends on what your interaction was. Like, is it fleeting? Have you just you've both kind of acknowledged that you're attracted to one another, you've quickly given someone your number and then that's it, you know, versus having an app where someone said a little bit about themselves, you've gotten to see a few photos, you know, how are they portraying themselves online? That, I feel like, is a good indication of what someone's like. You know, what have they chosen to put out there? Sometimes you can read a little bit into that. But yeah, it's a tricky one. I think you can make the same point for both.
Yeah, I think I really disagree. I think that I think you get a sense of who a person is, and you get a feel for, you know, as you would say, their energy and aura when you meet them in person. So whether that be your barista or the person that you see at the bus stop every morning when you're going to work, or, you know, you get a sense and a feel for who someone is, and if they're warm or if they're cold. But as in, you can't get that through photos. You can't get that through someone's bio. And also, just because someone puts up photos doesn't mean they're not edited, doesn't mean their bio's real, doesn't mean that their interests are real. As in, you don't know any of these things. They're just things that people say online, whether it's to make their profile more attractive or whatever it is. So I think that definitely you get a better feel for people. And I think that I read somewhere that, you know, people on dating apps say that something like only 3 out of 10 dates that they go on are positive experiences, whereas I don't know the stat, but I bet people that go on dates from meeting people face to face and approaching them in real life, work, play areas, whatever areas of their life, I guarantee that they'd go on their dates, they would claim to be better than 3 out of 10 of dates are good, because I reckon they'd already have a sense of who the person is before, you know, risking going on a date and finding out who they are.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I had some dating success when I used apps.
Could have been the 3 out of 10.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think back to the people that I've met in person who I've then dated. It wasn't as many. There was definitely more from apps. It was easier. It was a lot easier.
Of course it's easier. And I think maybe perhaps one of the positives is that it allows you access to people that perhaps you wouldn't meet in your life, right? So as in when you I know you can set your radius to X amount of kilometers.
Yeah,
so if you set your radius to 50 kilometers and you're meeting someone 50 kilometers away, you're not going to see that person at the gym. You're not going to see them in your office building. You're not going to see them at the local cafe. So as in, that's a positive. I guess it broadens your reach to people. But at the same time, as you said,
I think
you used it because it's easy and it's easy access to lots of people.
I feel like that's kind of perpetuating the hookup culture, though. Is that it's making everyone seem so much more accessible, you know?
1,000,000%.
You feel like you've got more options, and, you know, I don't think it's an amazing thing that's kind of, it's turning into a bit of a monster, I feel. People don't know what to expect when they're going on a date now. Are you dating because you're dating for fun, or are you dating because you actually want to get to know me? It's and you're not going to discuss that before you go on a date with someone, because you're going to come across as a bit weird if you go, hey, by the way, before you go on this date, are you taking this seriously? No one's going to do that. So, yeah, it's obviously creating this accessibility to anyone and everyone that's making people feel like they always have another option, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the big negatives about dating apps, because I feel like, as you said, there's so much access to people and to profiles that it's if things are going well with someone and you're chatting to them during the week and they might not reply for a day because you don't know, they might be busy at work, they might have had fallen ill, gone to hospital, you don't know, and they fall off a little bit, you might go, oh, stuff this. And instead of chasing the good thing, which, you know, if you met someone at the gym and you're getting along, you're not just going to flog it off if you don't hear from them, you know, in a day. But instead you might go, oh, well, stuff it, I'm going to talk to the other 5 people that I've matched with this week, you know, and I'm going to see if things work with them.
Give it up pretty quickly.
That's what I think people do in these scenarios, you know, and I even have, you know, friends who have been caught in which is probably not a good thing, but using these apps, going on dates with someone, really liking them, and then getting to that stage in the relationship where, you know, it might be the time to take it a little bit more seriously, or, you know, lock it down as your exclusive, you know, partner, and then they think to themselves, what if there's something else better out there, as in, fuck, I might have a little look around and see if there's anything better. And it's because that's so unbelievably easy to do, it's you click on the app, you open up and start fishing, you know, start fishing for something better. Whereas if the apps didn't exist and that was real life, you might go like, oh, no, I've got a really
Give
good
it a
thing
bit more
here.
of a
And,
go.
maybe I'm going to give it a bit more of a go. Or not even give it a bit more of a go, but just like keep seeing where it's going to go, because it was actually quite hard to put myself out there and find a partner. And so, maybe that's, food for thought when it comes to, one of the negative, like just too much access, too easy to look in other places.
Not when you're getting 5 swipes a day without paying for it.
Yeah, but I mean, that's why these apps are all worth hundreds of millions of dollars, is because obviously people are paying for them. And,
It's such a weird concept, paying for romance.
It's not even paying for it. It's paying for the hope of
It's paying for the
someone's going to like you back.
It's such a weird thing that we've monetized, isn't it?
Definitely. But yeah, I mean, I read a study of a few thousand people that use dating apps, and it's coming back to the thing you said before, that you felt like, you got to know someone through their profile. And it actually said that 47% of people said that they intentionally stretched the truth regarding elements of themselves or their lives, of which 55% of that 47% said that they lied about their career. So it's like, you might think that you're starting to get to know someone by talking to them through these profiles and this information that they've given you, but that's 1 in 4 people are lying about their jobs. So it's like,
I wonder if it's lying outright about the job, or about, details about the job, and maybe putting a bit of a gloss over it.
like, give me an example. What do you mean?
I don't know, just giving themselves a cheeky promotion on the app.
Yeah, but I mean, that's still lying about your career, right?
Yeah, I
So-
find that really interesting. I don't understand why people enter these situations lying from the outset, when at the end of the day, if something goes well, it'll come to the surface, right? Like,
Well, I feel like it's an odd way to want to start getting to know someone, to start off the back of a lie. It's like, obviously it's not good for the relationship starting with a lie, but also this person is falling for you because of certain things and characteristics about yourself and your life. And, perhaps they're looking for someone in a certain career or role because it's going to complement them in their career or role, or, allow them the ability to be with you because of work hours or whatever it is. And if you're lying about that, it just seems like such a weird way to start a relationship. But then it brings it back to dating online or dating in real life, face to face. And it's like, I don't think if you met someone at a cafe and they asked what you did, you would openly lie to their face, right? So it would be a lot harder to do that. Whereas, 25% of people are lying about their careers, and it's like that.
but we're assuming that they're looking for a romantic relationship. Maybe these people just want to hook up.
Yeah, but that means that then these apps are sort of like perpetuating people telling lies in order to grant access to perhaps a caliber of individual that they might not get in life if they told the truth. So it's like, and then let's say it works, for example, right? So let's say they do tell lies and they fabricate things, and then they do get access to these people and they might hook up with them or start dating them. It's like, well, that cements it in their mind that like lying and manipulating is like the way to go in order to access these people. So it's just this, I don't know, it seems like quite a toxic little spiral downhill.
Yeah, I can't imagine starting a relationship off with a lie about my career. It seems, but then having to explain that later on, I just don't understand. That's a lot of people to be doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then you think about how many people meet on dating apps, and it's like, well, are they really dating the people that they think they're dating, or are they dating the profiles that are lies? And then when do you come out and when are you honest about these things?
And then we've got, the introduction of AI and people now using that to kind of enhance themselves, enhance their profiles a little bit, like help them write a bio that's interesting or witty or funny, or, help them script a message that maybe they wouldn't write themselves. Like, you're essentially, your personality, it's not shining through as who you actually are. So you're kind of tricking people into then going and meeting you,
Yeah, for sure. And I think that is like, the old saying of like gift of the gab, right? So as in like, some people are just great talkers. They're great conversationalists. They can, whatever you throw their way, they'll give you something back and they'll keep the ball rolling. They'll ask you questions. And I think that that's also something that kind of lacks when people communicate through these means, through apps, through messaging, through emails all day, you know, work from home, through Slack, through WhatsApp. It's like, instead of communicating with people and having to answer them directly, you know, face to face, as soon as they sort of say something to you, you've got time to like craft these messages, to think of something funny, to look something up, to text it to a mate and ask for help. And so I think that people sort of lack the skills that like perhaps used to be like quite attractive, you know. And I'm sure it was, you know, for you dating, I'm sure it was much more attractive when some guy had a little bit of banter and he was cheeky and he could you know, and he could go back and forth with you, than some guy that was really witty over message, and then you went on a date with him and he was a pile of rocks.
Yeah,
you know?
you were the opposite. Rocks on text, witty in person.
Thanks, mate.
Do you think that perhaps as a society we're valuing or respecting relationships less? And maybe that's why people aren't taking it so seriously online when they do things like lie about their profiles?
Well, I just think it comes back to the access thing. It's like, when you have access to so many people, it's like, it doesn't matter if it stuffs up. It doesn't matter if you get caught in a lie, because
no one respects each other's time anymore, right?
you get home, you open the app and you try again, you know? It's like...
But when did we stop caring about how we were, you know, impacting other people's lives? And who, you know, in a world where we have such little time all the time, like, you know, how are we spending so much of it trying to deceive people, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess social media perhaps, perpetuates that problem of, you know, people see, you know, people doing fancy things, having fancy things, and they think that perhaps they, you know, that's what people expect or need or want in a relationship. So they feel like they have to lie in order to impress people and to get them on side, or to even have a shot, I guess, you know, at a relationship.
I wonder if it's also, I know in our circles, less and less people are like set on having kids, you know, whether that's also perpetuating hookup culture and you know using the apps to kind of achieve that.
Definitely.
Like there's less of a desire.
Are you saying that your friends don't want to have kids? Like they're
not necessarily. Oh yeah, some. Yeah, not some. Yeah, and I'm sure there's always been people who've had less of a desire to have children, but I wonder whether that partnered with. And, you know, I know some people don't want to have kids because they, you know, are afraid to bring children into a world that seems a bit uncertain. But that partnered with the accessibility and, you know, we talk about, what's it called? Peter Pan syndrome, where people don't want to grow up as well and kind of just want to keep doing their own thing.
Sure.
Yeah, I wonder whether it's kind of all linked together and it seems like it might be this kind of cycle where one perpetuates the other, you know? Yeah,
well, I mean, hookup culture has been rampant in our society for, I don't know, it's probably since I was 18. I remember like it being something that was just normal, you know? You'd hook up with people and it was... You know, you didn't need to be in a relationship with them, or.
But in people, you know, in our age range, has it been so common?
Well, I mean, I probably have a different mix with my friends. Like you're saying that you have plenty of your friends that don't want to have kids, whereas like I have a whole friendship circle that has heaps of kids, and like every single couple has kids, and then I have a few mates that are still, you know, our age and single and looking, but I don't have any friend that doesn't want a serious relationship and a family and kids. They all want it and are looking for it. So as in perhaps a little bit different. But I think I also have mates that are against hookup culture. So as in I have a friend who's, you know, recently dating someone. It's going really well. They met on a dating app and he said like he was so happy that he literally he you know makes a joke of it and says he went 1 from 1. You know, he met this girl, they went on a date, they hit it off and he's loving that, you know. But he said, and I remember him saying to me, he said, if I had to like have these conversations back and forth with
over and
10 different people at the same time. He's like, I would hate that. And it'd be so mentally and socially draining.
Yeah.
So he's like, he got lucky that he found a good egg and it's going really well. But like, that doesn't happen for a lot of people.
Oh, 1 from 1's huge. That's incredible.
As in, if you're needing, or, you know, wanting, needing, whatever it is, to chat to heaps of people all the time. And I think I read a stat that said, people on average match with about 5 people a week. So you think about that, it's 20 people a month. It's like, imagine you needing to chat to 20 different people a month and have similar conversations. So you're going to have a different sort of banter with them, but you're going to
you got to come up with a new joke every time.
Yeah, what do you do? Where are you from? What do you like? What do you want to do on a date? You know, it's like you have to do that 20 times a month. Like, man, you're going to have some serious burnout when it comes to dating. And I also think that burnout would then lead to you rethinking each person that you're with, or not with, sorry, you're talking to, because if you're talking to 10 people, you might find 1 or 2 things that you really like about each one that perhaps the next one doesn't have, which means that you never truly fully invest in one person or take that person, you know, too seriously, because you're always like, well, you know, this person really likes anime and so do I, but, you know, this person really likes golf and this person really likes training. So it's like you're kind of umming and ahhing and guessing like, oh, which one do I pursue? And you're not going to take any one super seriously. You just kind of sort of lead them all along, which I think is probably not, you know, a good thing when it comes to dating culture.
Everyone's looking for the perfect person too, right? Like,
yeah, it makes sense, right?
Yeah, but the perfect person doesn't exist. But you
Dun,
know,
dun, dun.
when you meet someone in person, you give them a bit more of a go than you would on an app. On an app, I feel like the scrutiny is a bit higher.
In terms of,
well, you're not going to go make the effort to go meet them and have a date and, you know, put yourself out there unless it's kind of like, are you ticking all my boxes? If you're taking it seriously, you know, unless you're going out for a good time, if you know what I mean.
oh, sheepers. Yeah. Okay. I do know what you mean. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I would do anyway. I'm not going to go on dates with anyone just because we both like chicken sandwiches.
Wonder how you guys got there. Awesome. Yeah, it's not going on a date with you if you like chicken sandwiches, guys.
It's got to be a bit more.
I think an interesting thing that I read when, you know, researching all this dating app stuff and whatnot, and something that I realized is, you know, dating apps are a super visual medium, you know, like you're swiping through and essentially, let's be honest, you're swiping right or left mainly based on your if you're attracted to the person or not, right? So, you know, super attractive women, super attractive men are going to do fantastically on the apps. If you're more of an average looking Joe, it's like you might need to really dazzle someone with your, you know, bio and being witty. And I think the stat was that men swipe right on women's profiles 8 out of 10 times, whereas women swipe right on men's profiles only 2 out of 10 times. And so if you actually think about that statistic, you realize that it's actually only the top 20% of male profiles that really have like access to all, you know, the women on these dating apps. So when you think about it, it's like all these men, and especially men that, you know, might not be as confident or, you know, in social situations, download these apps and they think, okay, this is going to be a great way to meet women, but it actually might be quite a, you know, a yucky experience for them because they might not get too many matches and have a great time, you know, chatting to women because women are only swiping right on 20% of profiles, and that's the, you know, probably the 20% most attractive men that you'd find. So those men are having a sort of a field day with these apps and have, you know, access to all sorts of profiles and women, and we're having a great time. But I think maybe if you're not as stand out and you're one of the other 8 or 10 profiles, you're probably not having a great time.
Doing more swiping.
Yeah. And if you think about it, you know, that number before of like average, you know, people match average with 5 people a week. It's like,
it's not many.
How averages work. It's like someone could be matching some hot babe and some hot dude could be matching with 200, and then there could be, you know, a heap of people matching with 0. So
it's a lot of people to be
I'm sure that there's
to.
plenty of people on these apps that are, you know, super attractive and have great chat that are doing great. And then there's plenty that are not enjoying their experience as well.
I put out there onto my stories, I wanted to know what you guys thought was an appropriate time or inappropriate time to stop speaking to someone on an app or other people on apps if you'd gone on dates that had been successful. And there was a range of responses There was quite a few that came back and said between 3 to 4 weeks. So some people put like a time limit on it, 3 to 4 to 5 weeks. Some people said a certain number of dates, like some people said 4 dates, 5 dates. And then there were a few kind of other varied responses where a lot of people came back and said, well, you just kind of go off how you feel, you know, like does it feel like it's wrong to continue speaking to other people? And then there were answers where people had said, well, once you have the discussion, so you've then got to go and speak to the person you're seeing and you mutually decide to then get off the apps. So I find that really interesting then, because it's continuing that access to people as you've started seeing someone and getting to know someone. Then all of a sudden you go, oh, hang on, I'm dating this person now. It's maybe not appropriate for me to continue swiping on new people every night. And, you know, someone gave a response that I thought was interesting. She said, a week. For me, if I saw that he had an active account, I would just take a step back. So then, you know, you've got the question of what's appropriate and inappropriate in terms of continuing to use these apps, because some people then came back with the response of, well, you keep using it until you know that you're definitely together, because why would I waste my time and energy on this one person, you know, if it's not a sure thing?
Yeah, but that brings you back to the point that's what I'm saying. You never take any person too seriously.
Yeah.
You've always kind of got one foot out the door.
Yeah.
And old school dating isn't like that, you know, because you don't have access to 100 different people in a week. You're sort of like, I'm dating this person, it's going really well, like, can't wait for our date on Thursday. Like, you're not like going like, oh, okay, they cancelled on Thursday. Like, oh, good, I'm going to message one of these other 4 people to hang out on Saturday. You know, like you don't have that option. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing, but you know, I can't really add anything to this because I've never actually used a dating app. So I've never gone on a date with anyone, had a good experience, and then had to cut off communication with other people. So
I wonder what the future of dating is like for these kids who are on their phones increasingly more, you know, than especially, you know,
they'll know nothing else. They'll honestly know nothing.
But that's
different.
what I mean. It's going to be the new norm. It's going to be almost weird to ask someone out in public and in person because it's going to be so uncommon. Or, you know, things like breaking up with someone via text. That's becoming really normal, and it's not so much weird or strange anymore. Whereas, you know, if you did it 10 years ago, it would be considered really rude and inconsiderate, you know? So
do you know people that are breaking up over text?
Yeah, why? What do you mean?
Well, as in, like, I'm just saying, how do you know, like, people are breaking up over text?
Oh, I've been broken up via text.
Oh.
We broke up via text.
Yeah, you texted me.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Imagine making this point and it's you.
It worked out though.
Yeah, here we are. All right, guys. Now, one little thing that I found out when researching for this pod was that 1 in 4 male users lied about their height.
Wow. Did they say they were shorter?
No, definitely not. Now, I found this one.
That's
I found this
crazy.
one even weirder than the lying about your career, because lying about a physical attribute just seems like the stupidest thing you could possibly do.
How do you hide that?
Because yeah, when you what do you do when you go meet up with a person?
Yeah.
Like, and you say, "Look, I'm 6'2," and then the chick's 5'10," and then you're looking at each other in the eye.
They got platform
and
shoes
she goes, well, what is going on here? You know, so I feel like lying about physical attributes on these apps is once again just shooting yourself in the foot. And when you lie about your career or something, I'm not condoning it, but far easier lie to hide and sort of, you know, die with the lie. Because, you know, you can go to work, they're not following you, and you can probably string that along a little while. But you saying you're 6'3" when you're 5'10", it's like as soon as you go for that first meet up and date, they're gonna know. And I don't know, if someone was lying about that sort of stuff to me, I would just think you're a flog, and I would not go on a second date.
Maybe these people think that the you know, people they go on dates with will just kind of not have an issue with the height if they meet them in person and wow them and, you know, yada yada yada, versus reading it on paper and going immediately, oh no.
Sure, I don't necessarily disagree with that. That is like, yeah, you shouldn't. Yeah, I'm sure that plenty of people have a criteria of what they like in a person, and then they find someone that doesn't fit that criteria and they still like them. I don't disagree with you there. But as in, it's also not
weird.
fair to lie to someone and manipulate them into coming and meeting up with you. Like, because if they have a certain criteria and they're wanting a partner to fit that criteria, that's their prerogative, you know?
It's really important to them to go on, you know, every roller coaster in the world, and you're not hitting that height, that's not going to work out.
Oh, my God. You know, when you do jokes, I'm meant to laugh at them, not you.
Someone's got to do it.
All right, guys, we are ending our Mad About You this week with none other than our Ask Mum and Dad segment. And so I received this DM actually from someone, and it goes as follows. Thoughts on dating drastically outside of your culture/religion. I met a man around 3 years ago who was a different background and religion. He was a Muslim and I'm a Catholic, although not strictly practicing. He is married, but has claimed the whole time it was arranged by his parents, and him and his wife mutually do not love each other and for all intensive purposes are separated. However, to their families, they're still happily married. He was honest in that he couldn't be with me or give me everything I would want in a relationship until that was sorted out, but he's asked me to wait for him. This was in the first few months of knowing each other. 3 years later, we're in the same boat. He tells me it's because I don't understand his religion and culture and that it's quite common and I need to be patient. Do you guys think it's worth continuing to put my life on hold for this?
No. Just straight up no. And I feel for you, because that would be really hard, especially if someone's continued to, you know, make you believe that they're going to make themselves available to you. And if you really, you know, connect with them and have fallen in love with them, I can see how hard that would be. But at this stage, come on, 3 years. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I mean, if he's telling you these things at 3 months and says, you know, give me a little bit of time, I have a few things to sort out, like I can understand where he's coming from, you know, and he goes, I got a few loose ends to tie up and I need to sort out my family and stuff. That's understandable, but at that 6-9 month mark, year mark, you'd have to be asking some questions. And to be strung along for 3 years, it doesn't really sound like he's moving in any direction, especially when you ask him and he says, you know, you don't understand my culture and religion, you don't understand how it is. It doesn't really sound like he's, you know, giving you any positive reinforcement that it's, you know, going to happen soon and I'm really sorry for the wait. It sounds like he's kind of just, you know, got you towed along for this ride. And that is it is a shame about, you know, some cultures and religions do clash in that sense and perhaps aren't a great mix. But yeah, I feel like, you know, if...
I'd love to know if his partner knows about her dating him.
Yeah, well, it sounds like they're not... It says they're mutually like not in love and not together. It's only for show for the family.
But who's to say he's not just saying that?
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Yeah. And you know, plenty of people, you know, you've heard stories and seen things online and about people being caught living double lives and having dual families. So it's
that's where my brain would go. I would think that maybe something's not quite right. Unless I had a conversation with the person and said, hey, just want to clarify that you're okay with me, you know, dating your husband for the past 3 years.
Wait, so you would suggest the two ladies having a chat?
Well, I'm saying if he's made it clear that, you know, this arrangement's fine and we just got to wait for the family to kind of get out of the way, yeah, I'd probably want to clear that up.
Yeah, fair enough. That would probably make you feel a little bit less anxious about it, maybe cement it in. But I think this guy has made it quite clear that he's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere soon. So I think, I wouldn't be holding out for it. It's a shame, but it sounds like, you know, also if he's so terrified of his family and what they think, I don't think that him being with you, someone outside of his culture, if it's a super strict culture and religion, is going to go too smoothly for you either. So you might, you know, let's say all things go to plan and he does leave his family and ends up being with you. It sounds like he would almost have to hide you from his current family because of cultural and religious things. So yeah, I think that, you know, unless he's man enough to go, you know, I don't care what my family thinks and, you know, I want to move on and I want to chase love, which, you know, I have had a friend who had an arranged marriage and it happened and he hated it, and he said he was miserable, and he kicked up a stink, and he said, I'm not doing this, and he sort of, he did sort of shun his family a little bit and say, look, I can't live my life like this. I'm on the planet once, and I want to be happy, and I thought that was an extremely valiant thing to do. But it doesn't really seem like this guy is willing to do that. It kind of seems like his culture, family, religion kind of rules him. So
this is one of the only scenarios where I think an ultimatum is helpful.
what would it be?
You would, sort it out in the next 2 to 3 business days, or I'm out of here.
Yeah, nice. Tell him to wrap it up quick. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I would sort of say, like, you've had 3 years. We either do this or we don't. So perhaps, yeah, have a chat to him, give him that little ultimatum, maybe a few more days than 2 to 3 business days. And
No.
all right.
Like, short and sharp.
All right, so he gets 3 years and 2 business days. Yeah, I'm sorry to tell you, but I think that he's stringing you along, and it's not going to work long term. So I hate to tell you, but I think you gotta look elsewhere for your partner in crime.
Sending you lots of strength to do what you need to do.
That's all we got for you. Guys, thank you again for tuning in this week to Mad About You. We appreciate every set of ears, and what we do appreciate even more is when you leave us a little cheeky review at the end of listening. It means a lot to us. Thank you again, and we can't wait to chat to you next week.
See ya.